We're all told as artists that we have to be our own marketers, our own agents, our own everything. I mean, you name it, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to do it. And I gotta say, I spent many years making films, up until now, actually, not doing any of that. I was always about just making them work, putting it out there, and figuring that would take me on my journey, that would be enough. Doing good work, being consistent, putting yourself out there that way would do it. But I recently found out that I didn't get into a pretty nice film festival because I don't have a following, or a big enough following. So I've conceded to the fact that I have to do all this stuff. And yeah, I'm on social media, but I'm on as a human. So now I'm going on as a brand. I don't really know how I feel about it, but I'm doing it because you really have to as an artist. You have to brand yourself. And I've had a wonderful team, Definition Brand House. They're awesome. They've been helping me out. I can't afford a social media team to do everything for me, as I'm sure it's a situation a lot of us are in, right, as artists, but they're at least giving me concrete advice that I can follow and the steps I need to take and what I need to do and the content I need to make to promote myself. Now, I made a separate video with my rant about what went on when I tried to set everything up on my own, which was incredibly frustrating. But now I want to share with you what I learned so that you don't have to go through that and you know the steps that you need to take. You're certainly welcome to listen to the rant. There'll be a link up. It's probably popping up right now. Yay. And the link will be there again at the end of this video if you want to listen to it later. Before I start going through all the steps, I just want to say I'm going to mention all the costs involved as well so that you're not caught off guard later on. If you can't afford this now, I do know what it's like not to be able to afford a scoop of ice cream. So please know that. And please know that this can just be something you keep in the back of your head that you can do when you're ready. You don't have to do everything now. Not everything is affordable if you're just starting out. But if you're like me and you've been doing this a while, or you're just in a better financial situation earlier on in your film career, that's great. Your acting career, your artist career, right? Good for you. And here's what you might want to do. So let's start with newsletters. You need to choose an online vendor that provides forms that you can put into your website so people can sign up. You can't just email everyone that you've gotten email address from over the years. That's actually illegal. Most newsletter vendors out there, such as Campaign Monitor and Flowdesk, have simple to use forms. And I have to say that Campaign Monitor has a form that you can put in your website that will pick up your branding, which is really awesome. You don't have to format it or do any coding or anything fancy. It's all set up for you. You just put it in. It's amazing. It works really well in Squarespace, I can say that. Flowdesk has prettier templates, but Flowdesk has a really messed up verification system, and it's really painful, and I started using them because their templates are beautiful, but I had to can it because it was just too difficult. And again, if you want to hear about that, listen to my separate rant video. So the cost for a newsletter system is anywhere from $10 a month to $150 a month. It really depends on how many subscribers you have and what features you need to use. As an artist and somebody who I'm guessing does not have millions of people in their newsletter list, it's probably going to cost you $10 to $20 a month to send your newsletter. Now, I mentioned verification earlier. So before you begin sending out your newsletter, whatever platform you use to create and schedule your content needs to confirm the domain you are emailing from is real. And it's really best that you're able to verify your email address. You can't verify a Gmail or a Yahoo or any free email address. And because they're likelier to be used for phishing scams, they tend to be sent to spam folders. Or they just don't make it to someone's inbox at all because they have some kind of security on their email that completely blocks those kind of blast emails from free, quote, free email addresses. So your email might be built into your website as a package. You may not pay extra, or you might use two different things, a website and an email provider connected to your website, and it might have separate fees. But again, you just want to avoid being looked at as if you're phishing. So a phishing scam, if you don't know what it is, are those malicious emails you get where somebody's trying to coerce you into giving out personal and financial information. So you don't want to be seen as that, is what I'm saying. There are hosting fees associated with websites as well as domain purchases. So to purchase a domain, like I have shariberman.com through Squarespace. So to purchase that domain and host it, it costs me between $250 and $300 a year. And I've added Google Workspace to my site because it not only gives me an email address at my domain, it also allows me to do a lot of other things that you need to do great social media, like run analytics to show your user engagement and all that. So that costs like another $75 or so a year. All right, website hosting platforms do have great templates. So if your budget's tight, you can just build your website with those templates. Squarespace has a ton of them. But if you want someone to design your site, like if you really know your brand and you want it very specific to you, it's going to cost you between $1,000 and $3,000 to get a really good looking site up there and a really good designer who knows what they're doing. If you want a very complicated site, like if you're selling items, you have catalogs, it can go even higher than that. I will say, if you decide to take this route, please make sure you really know what your brand is and who you are in terms of how you want to present yourself. A designer can't do that for you. They can translate what you tell them onto the website, but they can't come up with who you are. So if you're just starting out, I don't really recommend you hire a designer. Go with a basic template and get going a bit and figure out where you fit in and what your niche is and what you really want to do, and then go ahead and do that. So if you're somebody who's been doing this for a while like me, might be worth the cost. It just depends what money you have and how you're balancing it all. So let's say you have your domain with Squarespace. You'll need to go into your DNS settings in your websites in order for a newsletter platform to verify the site. Only the newsletter platform can give you this code. To put this code into Squarespace, you're going to go into your settings of your domain and you're going to navigate to your DNS records. Then you're going to add the information as instructed by the newsletter provider. You'll also need to do this for your Google Workspace email. And yes, the settings for your Google Workspace email go into the DNS records of your website. That's how I can have an email like shari@shariberman.com as opposed to shari@gmail.com. But it's all got to be connected. You can't just set up the email address. You have to connect your site to that email address so it can all talk to each other. I'm speaking in very general terms here, but really you just have to go ahead and do that. Now, you will have issues verifying your email address if you set it up like I did with Squarespace as your domain host and Google Workspace as your email provider. I kind of talk about this in my rant, but basically what it is when the email goes out from a newsletter platform to verify your email, which is different than verifying your site. So it's two different things, okay? You set up to verify your website, and then you're also setting up to verify your email. When you do this, sometimes the newsletter site will ping your website server and not your email server. If their email needs to go to Google and it's going over to Squarespace, well, it's being left in the ether and you're never going to get it. So some newsletter platforms can't figure out how to make that work for you. I can tell you I use Campaign Monitor, and I did have to write them. I did have to tell them I didn't get my verification email, but they worked it out and made sure it came into my inbox. So you get yourself all set up doing that. So you get your website, you get your email address at your website, and then you verify both of those things through the newsletter platform. I have a nice social media team that's helping me out and advising me on my social media campaign so I can figure out what works and I can actually do this. So I just want to give a shout out to Definition Brand House. They're amazing, they're patient, and they're working within my budget. I can't afford to have them create the content. I'm doing that myself, but the advice is really great and it keeps me on track and it's affordable for me. A full social media team will cost you at least $1,500 a month. It's like paying another rent in New York City. And it can be actually a lot more depending on how much content you feel like you need to put out there and they feel like you need to put out there for what you're doing. I get it. It's a lot of work because I'm doing it myself. I'm creating all of my content. So I'm not saying it's not worth the cost. It is. You're getting something tangible, but it's not something most artists can afford. So it's a little bit of an insane cost to take on unless you have a trust fund. And if you do, good for you. Go ahead, hire a team. I commend you. But if you can invest a little bit of money, I'm talking like a few $100s, just to get yourself set up properly with a plan of action by a team that knows what they're doing, it's really going to help you out. It's really worth that smaller fee. One thing this team advised me to do was to set up my Google Analytics so I can see if people are actually hitting my site and what pages, because you don't want to be sending out social media content and not knowing if it's doing anything. I had to do a lot of digging to set this up. So first off, you have to turn on Google Ads. Okay, you need to turn on Google Ads to get analytics running. Once you do this, you will need to, again, put some information in your website so that Google Analytics can talk to it and get the information on what's happening there. When you set up Google Analytics, you'll also need links to the pages of your site that you want to check. Once you do all that, you can create your newsletter and start sending out social media content, and then you can see how everything is working for you. Now, let's talk about social media content and the best way for you to create that and get it out to the world. If you can't afford a social media team to create your content, which I'm guessing is where everybody is, there are some easy to use templates online in tools like Adobe Express. Okay, Adobe Express comes with Adobe Creative Cloud. If you don't know what Adobe Creative Cloud is, it's a suite of software that has tools like Premiere Pro, Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, InDesign, all the things that are used to create fabulous content. That said, Adobe Creative Cloud does cost around $75 a month unless you have a student package or some other discount. But basically, it's around $75 a month. And if you don't use all those other programs, you might want to find something else that's free. Go investigate. You'll find stuff. You may hear about stuff from other people. Ask around on social media. Somebody will probably have a suggestion for you. I want to talk about the difference between using quick and easy tools and using more complicated tools that you might be used to. So basically, Adobe Express, Adobe Photoshop Express, and Adobe Premiere Rush are basically simplified versions of bigger tools. It takes something like Photoshop and takes out all the bells and whistles and makes something very simple that it's easy to create fast, basic content and get it out to the world. This can be really helpful, I think, for people who have not used the bigger programs and want to keep it simple. Or maybe you're an editor, you use Premiere and you never use Photoshop. Why are you going to go learn Photoshop just to put up some basic social media content? Photoshop Express is probably better for you and faster. But I have to say it can be terribly frustrating to use Photoshop Express, Adobe Premiere Rush, if you're used to using bigger programs that have all the bells and whistles like I am. I found myself in this frustrated camp, and I actually have decided to move back over to real Photoshop and Premiere for my work, for my content. But you should use what's easiest for you, because at the end of the day, your fans, they're just going to see what you created, not how you created it. The last thing you're going to need is you're going to need to use a program that allows you to schedule your social media content to go out. You can't expect yourself to be able to be online on a regular basis at the best times of day to hit your fans and to send out content. Like, that's not sustainable, and you need to work at your job and eat, okay? That's really important. You can't do anything with your social media if you're not working and eating. I use Hootsuite. Hootsuite allows me to set up posts for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hootsuite costs about $600 a year. To sum all this up, you're looking at a minimum of about $1,500 a year to be your own marketing person plus your time.